Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day yet again. Happy weekend to you. We're going to take a look here, of course, at Solana, see what's going on. This is great news. Price action did recover quite well from that low 208, 207 range. Came up all the way to this previous resistance of 225 and turned around. So it's uncanny how good this coin is performing, but also how concurrent it is with Bitcoin, and also, more importantly, those key level resistances here. So we get a closure above 225, folks. I think it's off to the races. In fact, we may already be off to the races. We're just going to double check a few things first before we just take a long in the blind. You always want to make sure to reevaluate before you do so. We can see our local point of control here, about 219, round number 220, is that tentative resistance and or support, depending which side we're on. I know it seems kind of crazy that the price just wavers above and below these levels, but Bitcoin's been a bit of a manic depressant coin lately, right? Just it's like super happy, super sad one day and the next, and it's just kind of getting annoying with this 86 to 91K range. But hey, it's the way that trading works right now, and the important thing is not to overtrade so you don't get destroyed by a lot of these little ebbs and flows, which are pretty consistent. So unless you're able to watch the charts all day and every day, it can be a little bit more difficult nowadays to navigate. So at this point, what we want to look at first and foremost is the backend data. We'll go from there. I just want to say thanks again to everyone in the Solana community. You're awesome, fantastic. Majority of our viewers, I would say at least 10-20% of you, hit the like button. I think we can do better though, so don't forget to hit that like button, comment below if you get a chance. Love to hear your thoughts, and again, deeply appreciate you watching and obviously being a part of my life here. I've been had this channel for over 3.5 years now. It's been a really great experience, and even though I've been trading for 20 years, I can tell you crypto is the most dynamic and unique trading environment you'll ever experience. So pay attention. Let's see what we can learn here today. So Solana, backend data. We'll look at liquidation levels first. So they got 7 days on the left, 30 on the right. Really quick summary here is there's a lot of liquidation above the 220 mark, right? So roughly here about 223 to 224, and then of course 226 to 228. So those levels are pretty concurrent with being just above the more recent highs. Okay, so this is definitely good in this sense here, kind of letting us know roughly where we're at, and kind of giving us inclination that the price is probably more likely to go up than down because of that, right? Now, me personally, I still feel like Bitcoin may pull back here. Bitcoin showed a little bit of strength yesterday when the daily candlestick closed, but it's been dying off ever since. So I'm not super convinced that Bitcoin's like maintaining its range and going to go higher. Me feeling that way implies that we might see Solana pull back a little bit, right? But we've seen so much support in the 200 to 210 mark. It's insane as to how well this coin is sustaining. So I think you're going to find some good success here, essentially, trading, buying the dip here, so to speak, if it ever comes down to that 200 to 210 mark again, right? We're close to it, though. I think we will see that just based on the simple rejection there. Just depends on the overall, if we can continue to establish higher highs and higher lows. Most of it is contingent on Bitcoin, of course, but if we look at the liquidation delta, it's kind of getting close to equilibrium, which I was talking about this with my community too with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it only has like 3 or 4 billion in long liquidation delta, which is really good because it's no longer in the 20, 30, 40 billion liquidation long delta anymore, okay? And if you're not familiar with that, basically the higher the number, you can only sustain that for so long, right? We had way too many people taking longs too recently, and Bitcoin had to pull back in order to correct that behavior, right? Same thing here with Solana. We can see that the price is getting a bit on the overextended side, right? And people recognize that. That's why we have more shorts than longs in the market, okay? We've got about $500 to $1 billion worth of shorts that could potentially be liquidated in the market right now versus that of longs, right? So it just kind of tells us people a little more short bias than long bias. And we take a look, of course, here as well at the backend data. Open interest for this, we can see the heaviest concentration at 215. That's smack dab right there where the price is at right now. And we can also see some late longs at 221. Folks, try not to be a breakout trader. It's not a good strategy. Wait until that level is established and then take a trade. And I know it's totally difficult because oftentimes the price will run and it won't even come back to that original entry. Then you FOMO in and it keeps going down, right? So it sucks. I get it. It's not like the best, most optimal trading conditions. Ever since we've been in the 90K range for Bitcoin, a lot of altcoins have been kind of going bonkers in mostly good ways, though. Okay. Now Solana does look like it wants to break out. I've been talking about this for a little while. Hypothetically, it does pull back further. Just say worst case scenario, we have a solid support to reaffirm this at 185 to 200. Okay. These are two tried and true areas of retracement in the past where the price action has done very well at those levels, and again recently too. So keep that in mind. Those are really strong areas of retracement, not just 0.382 and 0.236 fib levels, but also just generally macro support. So I want you to understand that exists there if the price does pull back. 200 and 185 are solid considerations for longs. I'm rounding down a little bit. You probably want to say 201 and 186 just to be safe, so you can get filled and not be in line with everyone else. But that's just, again, throwing it out there. And we look at the daily time frame here. We can recognize RSI is starting to come back down. This is normal. This is good. We'd like to see this. This is generally what we're looking for. We can see stochastic pulling back, and then the the money flow index increasing. The MFI coming up is a very, very good sign. It implies we're seeing a lot of volume. While today is a low volume weekend, we can recognize overall the Monday through Friday was a pretty good scenario for us. Okay, so Solana's looking good with backing its current price point with a lot of sustainability and volume, which implies the price is less likely to go down, more likely to go up. You can see the same thing with SUI as well. I cover that one regularly. It's just kind of one of those coins that is even more insane than Solana. So congrats to those who are in profit there. Now let's take a look here at the course 4-hour time frame. We can recognize we're above all moving averages, but we're testing the 20-day SMA right now. Again, being above all those is good. Okay, we can maintain that, then the likelihood of the further upside is greater. We can also see this reflected on our bit of our macro ascending trend here. We can see we've tested this this higher low once, and we could very well be testing it here soon. The strategy is to generally trade into that. So in other words, the price comes down to this 213 mark. That's generally considered a good consideration for a buy, just because the simple fact that we're still honoring our ascending trend, and it would make sense to buy into the trend, right? However, the overall sentiment is still that you want to be careful and trading this, because Bitcoin is a bit of a manic monster today, or more so just this whole week. It's been up and down violently, and it can be very difficult to trade right now, at least while holding for longer periods, right? That's more of my strategy. I prefer to buy now and sell in a few days. And it can be challenging to do that when Bitcoin gives us every indication it's going to go down and goes up sporadically out of nowhere, right? Same thing occurs here with Solana. It can do the same thing, only pretty much 2x to Bitcoin, so just be mindful this coin is also just as volatile. But we can see MACD trying to diverge. We can see we're at 50 on the RSI here. This is generally not a good place to consider buying. But again, the common reality here is true, remains true. We're above 50 on the RSI. That's generally construed as a positive, and the price action is more likely to go up than down, right? So the overall sentiment here is that Solana should continue higher. Majority of the indicators are pointing up right now. But just know we're kind of on the edge of, I wouldn't say disaster, but we're on the edge of a transition, okay? And Bitcoin is in that transition right now, whether we like to admit it or not. Even though it's ranging quite largely between like 87 and 91K as a rough estimate, it's still very much it's jumping above and below a lot of moving averages, and it's hard to get a gauge on whether it's going to break out or not, because it's not really sure it wants to do that. Okay, so again, that all is a foundation here for Solana. When we take a look at this here, these two charts look very, very familiar. Okay, very similar here. That pullback, lower highs, lower lows, then a break of that trend line. Same thing here as well. We saw this break of the trend line here essentially, and now it's coming down to reaffirm its previous resistance as a support. So again, there's just some things to kind of think about. Let's summarize this here, wrap it up with the hourly time frame, and recognize here as well that we are above the cloud. Bitcoin is also now above the cloud itself, implying further upside. It makes sense. We can also recognize here that we've got conversion line over the baseline, but the lagging span is soon intersect with the price action. So again, while the Ichimoku cloud can be kind of a false positive in a lot of ways when prices go range bound, the truth here is that we don't have like this established breakout, and it wouldn't make a ton of sense to take a long right now. Now, granted, I'm sure as soon as you see this video, the price will be much higher, and it'll probably look like bad advice. But the way that you're supposed to trade is to wait for confirmation, and we don't truly have that confirmation yet. We do have some nice patterns here, and I'll post our playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord here soon. But this is a good little ascending type of trend. This is a triangle type of pattern. And the reason why these are beneficial and they typically break to the upside, at least in this regard, is because we're retesting that resistance level, right? Whereas we're establishing higher lows. So you can tell, this kind of tells us that the bears are losing control and that the bulls are slowly gaining control, and the likelihood of further upside makes more sense. But the best practice in general situations like this is to wait for the price action to come up and to retest its previous resistance as a support, then you take a long, right? Because again, taking a long right now is generally construed as a higher risk play. Even though we have a lot of confirming factors, it's not enough to warrant a long position when Bitcoin is in its resistance range and we have a low volume weekend, right? So again, responsible traders are probably going to wait to trade this, but it's not saying you're irresponsible if you trade it. Just make sure you trade responsibly within your risk tolerance, right? That's the difference. Some people don't realize that. They see Tom, Dick, and Harry over there shooting 50x leverage on every single trade. because they're not posting how many other trades they've gotten wrecked on, right? The higher the leverage, the higher the risk, and the higher the loss, right? So low leverage, low position size is probably the best recommendation if you're going to consider trading at all. I would recommend that at least over the weekend. Maybe weekdays when you can watch a little closer, or perhaps there's better price action. That might be a cause for slightly higher, just a better risk tolerance, or whatever one that works best for you. Okay, folks, that's all I got. Thanks again so much for watching. Deeply appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Have yourself a great rest of your day, and be on the lookout for our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. I'll post about here shortly. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.